Okay, folks, thank you guys for showing up. I really appreciate it. So, I've been developing what I call a human potential movement called Seishindo for, oh my goodness, I'm embarrassed to admit, no, must be about 30 years now at least. And Seishin Do in Japanese, Seishindo, Do means a field of study that you'll never fully master. uh, Aikido, Judo, Cha-Do, all of those different dos. So Seishindo, Seishin means, it can mean a number of things, but it means um, mind and body. And actually, we fully know that your body, everybody's body, has mind. It has intelligence. And and in the Western world, for some interesting reason, I'm not sure because I really don't study um, cultures enough to know. But we, in the Western world, we've been taught to kind of ignore everything but that big lump of bone in between your ears called your brain and your logical mind. And isn't that interesting? Because whenever, whenever you have a tug of war going on within yourself, should I eat this dessert or should I stay on my diet? Uh, should I have another drink? I'm still not drunk, so what's the big deal? On and on and on. Should I get up at 6 o'clock every morning and like Gilmore Crosby does and run a couple of miles?
Ah,
Uh, and
I
so,
exercise at night, Charlie.
yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Um, the emotional part of ourselves, which I tend to call it the emotional mind, just for brevity's sake, the emotional mind pretty much always, always, always wins out. And
What? Say that again?
huh, when we have to make, when we have to, when we're considering going on a diet, when we're considering whether we're going to exercise, when we're considering, are we finally going to get down and start writing that paper that we haven't written for the last 3 years and we're claiming we are? Usually, the emotional mind, our emotional mind, my emotional mind, wins out. And that's surprising to you. Okay, well, good for you. You must be highly, you must be highly, I don't even know all the words that go along with that because I'm not that kind of person, but like structured, on time. Um,
No,
Excuse me?
I'm structured except for when I'm not structured. I'm on time except for when I'm not on time. I am structured in the sense that I wrote my doctoral dissertation in 6 months. I did it 7 days a week. I took off lunch twice a week and dinner once a week.
Wow, you took off lunch twice a week. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, we were having a party, once we'd have a pizza party once a week or
Yeah.
something. And
So, so Beverly, what I'm saying is sometimes even
and
Charlie,
what I'm saying is the reason I don't feel good right now is because the last week has been a nightmare. And I have pushed and pushed and pushed until, like a step function, I dropped.
okay,
I can play, I can goof off, I can be totally unstructured. I can do totally whimsical things. But when I decide, and it's this decision that is key, you have to be really committed to the decision. And until you are, you won't do it. But if you are, you can do it.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to suggest that you write a book, and it might be it might become an Amazon bestseller. So, okay, let me ask you a question, and I'm just being playful. Would you would Is it your understanding that more and more people in the United States are becoming overweight?
Have become, yes, but there is another side that aren't.
If you look at the American population, is it tending towards more and more obesity or not?
Well, I look at things two ways. I look at what has happened and what is becoming. So, what is becoming is different sometimes than what has happened. And
Hey, Beverly, if I can interject for a second, I think you're picking up on being able to, you've learned how to do the weave.
I've learned how to do the what?
The weave.
The weave.
The weave,
Okay.
yeah.
What is the
Isn't
weed?
that her? Well, that was the president-elect's way of answering questions.
Oh no, I'm not like him at all.
Okay, so let's not get too far afield, as we say. Okay, so
He would change the subject, Jim.
That's right.
I don't think she changed the subject.
okay, so it's my
Yes, Charlie.
understanding, which is only my understanding, it's not the truth, but it's my understanding that the percentage of people in the United States that are considered obese has been going up and up for quite a number of years now. Is that not your understanding, Beverly?
No, that's true. But I think what we're
Okay.
looking
No,
at.
no, 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 no. Shh, shh, shh. Don't go anywhere else first. Okay. And so more and more Americans are becoming obese. And my take on that, not being a scientist, not running the surveys and everything, is that people make a promise to themselves. In fact, we're coming up to the biggest promise time in the United States is coming up right now. Because not for Christmas necessarily, but certainly for New Year's, there's going to be millions of people that promise themselves to lose a significant amount of weight this year that don't do it. And they don't do it. Again, these are just all of this is just my way of looking at the world. They don't do it because what I'm calling their emotional mind wins out over their logical mind, their task-oriented mind. So, for instance, I know for me, for quite some time now, when left to my own devices, I don't eat dessert more than like twice a month, and often not even that often. When left to my own devices, you heard that part. When dessert is put in front of me or close to in front of me, I'll eat it every time as long as I'm assuming it's a pretty good dessert. And sometimes even like on airlines, I eat the dessert knowing full well it's not going to be all that good, but it's sugar, you know. So most people are not as on target as you are, Bivley. And so that their emotional mind tends to win out over their logical mind. Um, and thank goodness for that, because that makes a lot of work for people like me. Okay? But I'm just saying that in passing. I'm not making that the topic of today's class. And so, yes, here we are. It's Christmas coming up. And as some of you will have heard me say before, there's a school of psychology that has a term called the imperative self. So, what is imperative? An imperative is something you must do. That's an imperative. I want you to do that. And so, the self that we seem to have no choice but to have is based on what we learned from our caregivers in the first, I call it 12 years of our lives. The imperative self people actually say something like 6 or 7 years, but I think it's up until puberty. Certainly puberty is becoming earlier and earlier because of all of the additives in the food. So we learn our emotions from our parents or our caregivers. We could grow up in an orphanage, for instance. And our emotions. So whether I'm the kind of person that gets easily angered and says, go to hell, you stupid son of a bitch, or whatever, or whether I'm a person that when people step on my toes, I apologize. We learn those emotions just like Joel learns to do something with, he's back on screen for me anyway. We learn these emotions as we're growing up. And then life being interesting as it is, seems to me, particularly in my line of work, seems to me that we often would like to not be having the emotional responses that we're having in life. Because, one person says, I don't have many friends because usually within a year or two, I have a serious argument with them. Or someone says, I've never come close to having a lifetime partner because such and such happens. Or someone says, I don't know, I'm just depressed. I've always been depressed. That's one I've heard a lot. And if you ask them a little bit, you'll discover, guess what? That their parents were depressed quite often when they were growing up. So anyway, the news is, as far as I understand it, which isn't the truth, it's just the way I understand it, according to my imperative self, is we usually don't have as much control over our emotions as we would like to have. I have a wonderful daughter. She's just very recently 30 years old. Her mother's Japanese. I'm, of course, American, or anyway, American, maybe not, of course. And my daughter just gets things to happen. Like my daughter went, this is to me unthinkable. She went to Abu Dhabi, somewhere in the Middle East. Middle East isn't that big geographically. So anyway, went to Abu Dhabi, for the F1 race that was taking place. The F1 cars are the fastest in the world uh, because she has an interest in F1, not a serious interest, but she finds it fascinating. She really likes whatever his first name is, Hamilton, um, an incredibly interesting guy that's been a top driver for years. And she went to Abu Dhabi for F1, and I said to her, Marina, do you know how much the tickets are? She says, Dad, don't worry, I won't have to buy a ticket. Sure enough, she gets into the race. She winds up down in a paddock or two, meaning, where they're actually preparing the cars. My daughter just does stuff like that as a regular part of the way she lives her life. And she expects it to happen, and it does. So because she's, in my mind, she's much more Japanese than she is American. She's very, very good at making people feel important. Oh, Jim, really? And what is your job exactly? And oh, Jim, oh, wow, that's so fascinating. She's so good at doing that. I don't think even she can tell whether she's putting it on a little bit or if she really is that interested. Because at the same time, she is really interested in other people.
And part of that I think she gets from you.
And part of that, my friend Joel says she gets from me. Yeah, Joe, for me, it's interesting because I shouldn't say this publicly, maybe, but I do and don't have a tremendous interest in other people. So that's another whole topic that goes along with emotional mind. Um, so, so here we are, and the purpose of these classes, in my mind, are that I really enjoy helping people to live a more emotionally fulfilling life. And you notice I paused after that, just to show you I'm a professional. I paused because that's an important part of what I'm doing, and I wanted to kind of mark that without using a marker. And how to go about um, helping people to live a more emotionally fulfilling life. So, for instance, my friend Jim Doyle here, who I reconnected with recently on LinkedIn, which is a huge website. Basically, I would call it a business-oriented website for every kind of business person. Um, I don't know, there's an unbelievable amount of coaches and therapists
Hmm.
on LinkedIn,
Tons.
you know, and we've all been to different schools, and we all have a different way of coaching other people or being a therapist. I used to be a therapist like 30 something years ago when there wasn't coaching. Now I'm a coach because almost no one, except in LinkedIn, almost no one calls themselves a therapist anymore. But there are a lot of therapists on LinkedIn also, which is surprising to me. And let me ask the group here, if you were to receive the job of helping someone to live a more emotionally fulfilling life, please give us a couple of ideas about how you might go about that. Bozo, go
It
ahead.
helped them calm down when they start to get upset.
Okay, help them calm down when they start to get upset. Thank you, Gilmore. Anyone else?
I think if you could somehow help them see what it is in themselves that trips their trigger to get upset, that would be helpful.
Okay, sounds like a good idea. And it's you need a certain amount of relationship with someone before they'll allow you to explore that with them for a lot of people. I mean, for me, as long as someone talks to me in a reasonable tone of voice, I'm happy to explore most anything with them. I mean, I'm not going to explore the inner workings of my private life, but anything other than that, if they say, Charlie, it could be whatever. Someone could say, I think I've seen you get angry a couple of times. Do you consider yourself an angry person? I'll be quite happy to answer that, and I'll try to be as honest as I can. But for some people, one of the things that I realize is trying to think about how to word it, there are a significant amount of people out there in the world that are, I'm going to use the word embarrassed rather than ashamed, but it could be both, of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person over there is embarrassed about who he is, for instance, we'll say he, and it could be everything from he's too short to he's too heavy to he's too or not enough something else. You have to be really, really careful when you talk to that person. Otherwise, you're just going to make them feel bad, which is not going to be a great way to help them as a coach.
What's interesting, Charlie, I've done a fair amount of work in career transition. And one
Okay.
of the great fears, particularly I think for white males, but I think this is true for pretty much everybody, is that if I'm going to go network with someone and potentially meet a 30-year-old person for coffee in a coffee shop via networking, there's a lot of fear about what do I say to that person? How do I connect with that person? And and that kind of fits a little bit with what you're saying about some people need relationship time. But if I've never met this person before and I'm trying to strike up a relationship, that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yes. Well, that's a very interesting expression you used there right at the end, which is that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Right.
Because I find that almost anything worth doing is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And by the way, my 5 minutes or 30 seconds of coaching on the situation that you just mentioned, Jim, is just ask the person questions about themselves. And if you ask the person questions about themselves, one after the other, and again, not foolish questions like, I know you're single. How many lovers have you had in the last 5 years? Now, a certain guy might go 25 and be very proud of that. But, without asking personal questions, I find there's no better way to be liked by people, which I'm not always good at, than asking them questions about themselves.
Mhm.
You know, there's an expression that says the most important word in the English vocabulary, since we're talking English, the most important word in the English vocabulary is for each person that you're talking to is their name. And then if you've ever been a bartender or someone, depending on tips, if you can remember the names of your clients or customers, you'll make so much more money than if you don't remember. The guy that was in 2 weeks ago that had those two scotches, that was Johnny Walker Black, by the way, not red. His name is, oh, Jim, how you doing, my friend? Yeah, good to see you. You want a black? Oof, that makes me a lot of extra money when I can do that, you know? So, so yeah, there's a lot of different strategies for helping people to have a more emotionally fulfilling life, depending on where you've studied and depending on who you yourself are or what you consider yourself to be. And I paused again there because I think that's an important point to make. And I think I'm pretty talented when it comes to what do you, the basket or the thing that you put the arrows in, is that a quiver? What do you call the thing that you put all the arrows in before you're going to shoot them? A quiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, quiver. So I think I have a pretty good quiver, and I can do various I can have various different engagements with people, not just to get them to like Charlie, but as a way of helping them over the course of time live a more emotionally fulfilling life. And some of those we call them often in the coaching business interventions that I make can have a significant effect in one session, but most of them, I'm not sorry to say, but some people, there's so much nonsense out there about how quickly certain top coaches can help people. But for instance, when I enter into a new coaching engagement with clients, and I'm not the only one that does it like this, I ask for a minimum of 12 sessions. If nothing else, that's because I want the client to realize this is not a one conversation deal here. And and I think I have enough different arrows in my quiver. I'm always almost always able to help people. Um, just a half a second here because there was this lady, there's another person saying sorry because of the holidays, but there was a woman that contacted me just like 2 hours before the class and said she was coming. Um, and she hasn't showed up, but it turns out she didn't get back to me. So here we are.
Charlie, I'm sorry I have to ask this, but
Well,
when,
one second, one second, one second,
okay,
one second, because I don't believe you actually. I don't believe that you're actually sorry that you have to ask me.
no, I am.
Oh, you are? Okay. I was wrong then. Go ahead. Be sorry.
Well, I'm used to being in a room or a group being the only woman.
Okay.
And uh, oftentimes I don't even notice it.
Okay.
And I'm called out. I was in a group at MIT, and a Harvard woman said, "Are you the only woman in that class?" I said, hmm, yeah, I think so. It's like that. But I think when you're talking about what it's partly what you're doing to interact with the person that you're selling something to. That's one thing. But if you're really, I'm really interested in getting to know people in all different kinds of cultures and all different kinds of experiences, and I always have been. And so when I meet someone, I'm not looking at how to connect with. I'm just looking at finding out more. And who is this person? And is is he going to he or she uh, is she friendly? Is she not? Is she open? Is she closed? Is he uh, trying to sell me something, either himself um, or a product or whatever? Uh, but or is it just trying to be a friend? And so it's a different approach than a constant. Am I? Um, a lot of times there are people that are insecure, and they have to think about.
I'm still waiting for this question that you're sorry to have to ask me. So you're taking a long time to get to the question, and I'm waiting for this question to find out, oh my
Is
God,
this
what's she sorry
uh,
about?
is do you find my approach more of a female male approach, or is it more general people versus crazy me, or what?
I
Your
could
approach is
go ahead.
your approach is that you're genuinely interested? Is that the distinction?
I
I
mean,
wouldn't think that was a gender-based approach.
well, what I was hearing from Charlie and Jim was it sounded like more of a selling approach,
Hmm.
all sorts of situations. Whereas I can be in a selling approach, but it's something I have to kind of turn on.
Like it was
Um,
fake?
no, it's not fake. It's just,
Okay.
I'm a consultant. I've been a consultant for
Hmm.
years. So when I first went to my first consulting job, I was there to learn, and
Hmm.
then I was there to sell. And when I go to conferences, I seek out different people and make connections. And once I made the connections, then I think about selling. But
Okay,
it,
okay,
So,
Beverly, just so we don't go too far afield, please.
sure.
Um, in the field of NLP, which I'm meant to be fairly well versed in, there's something called the meta model. And the meta model was actually, for the most part, um, developed by this amazing um, academic who's also very politically active, Noam Chomsky. And Noam Chomsky, the meta model teaches you, well, you can learn from the meta model. You, me, the person down the street can learn from the meta model that almost everything you believe, for instance, is an opinion and not the truth. So, for instance, just one small thing, and not to get lost with this, is um, is that person open? Are they whatever? Those are all opinions. none of that is the truth. So, for instance, if I'm at a certain meeting and I see a woman that to me is quite good looking, depending on how I think of myself, I might either go over to that woman and go, hi, and really engaging her in conversation, or I might be afraid or embarrassed to talk to her. She's going to have to be an astute person to know whether indeed, in general, I'm shy or not. Okay, so a lot of what you were saying was, without quite realizing it, which is fine because we all do this, according to my model of the world, and then you say boom, 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 because almost all of us lose sight of the fact that my model of the world isn't actually the truth out there in the world. Okay? And for instance, when I was talking to Jim, Jim and I have been sort of like playing tag for a few weeks now. And I haven't, and this is the first time I'm actually seeing Jim. And for me, I had a playful feeling towards Jim. And I was talking to him with that playful feeling behind my words. And for instance, I wasn't trying to sell Jim anything. And actually, I've had some really great training by another person that's not here today because of the whole holiday thing, but he's been here every other class so far, Rob Schwartz, who will most likely be teaching part of the next class I have. I've received great training from him on how to sell. And let me tell you how the process can be named. How to sell without selling. So what happens is you have what we call in the coaching business a discovery call. It's complimentary, which means you're not charging for that call. Usually it's between 40 minutes to an hour. And if you're really, number one, fairly confident, and number two, fairly clever, you don't say anything about yourself and your expertise in the field of X, Y, and Z and all of that other nonsense that a lot of salespeople do. You're asking the client all sorts of questions about themselves. And if you do a good enough job at that, the client comes away, and I feel guilty sometimes actually, because the client comes away, let's say some friend of Gilmore has a discovery call with me to see whether he's going to coach with me or not. And then if I've done a really good job and he's talking to Gilmore the next day, whatever, he goes, wow, that guy Charlie's a really nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Gilmore might be going, this, chuckling behind his hand. And I mean, Gilmore and I are friends, so he'll agree that I'm at least a reasonably nice guy. But the reason why his friend is telling Gilmore what a nice guy I am is because I've done a really good job of asking him questions about himself. And how old are you? And are you married or single, if you don't mind? And okay, you're married, and if you don't mind, again, you don't have to answer any of the personal questions. Do you have any children? And what are your hobbies? I mean, I'm saying this like machine gun fashion now, so it doesn't come across well, but what are your hobbies? And by the way, are you into watching sports at all? What's your favorite sport? The more I can get Gilmore's friend talking about himself, and what annoys him and what pleases him and so forth and so on, the more he's going to think I'm a nice person. And the more he thinks I'm a nice person, the more likely he is to hire me. Am I being manipulative when I do that? That's already maybe not the best question to ask, but I would say, of course, I'm being manipulative. I would kind of be foolish not to be manipulative during that conversation.
You're trying to influence.
I'm trying to, thank you. I'm trying to influence him. I'm not trying to trick him. I can guarantee you that, because I know those tricks don't work or they don't last. So I take a moment and come back to myself. And particularly those that have seen me do a little bit of work before. You can notice my posture. You can notice when certain people are talking how I'm moving or not moving. And for instance, my posture and my movement, or lack thereof, will tell you the best, most reliable information about my emotional state in the moment. Now, you have to learn some of the stuff that I've learned in order to really use that for any worthwhile purposes. But this is what I spent years learning, particularly as a Aikido sensei in Japan.
Okay. Charlie, can I comment for a moment?
Go ahead.
So yeah, so I was going to say, we're talking about all this, and a lot of it is, as you're saying, verbals, non-verbals, rhythms to get somebody to feel comfortable with you, and you're also watching the person. If Jim was having a bad day or something, and you're being playful all of a sudden, he could have had like taken the playful tone in a totally different way. And Beverly, as a consultant, you've learned a lot of this, but even if we're trying to be, and genuine is like, if I'm having a bad day, I might care less about the person than, but I want to, if I'm having that conversation with somebody, sales or just getting to know them, then I do want to put on that hat of being genuinely interested. And that's going to, again, influence what I ask, but it's going to influence my tone and my voice, and people are going to feel all that. So we're not,
Yeah.
we have to pay attention, or we pay attention unconsciously to so many details, because we could be the friendliest person, but if our voice tone somebody could not like, if we're asking questions too fast, are they closed or open? Part of it is just they're seeing us and hearing us and feeling us, through their own filters. And that's what, NLP taught us a lot of. And Charlie also absorbed, as he's saying, through all the years of doing Aikido and then hypnosis and NLP, all those things, and the other coach, and Seishindo, Saite, and all the stuff, all the things he's learned. And so I was saying, possibly why Marina is so good at some of that is she absorbed all that from you, a lot of that from you unconsciously.
Yeah, Marina being my daughter, for those that might not have kept that in mind.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
Charlie, I've got a question for you.
One
You can
second,
answer this.
one second before you ask.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Joel. There he is on vacation in this beautiful beach, and he's taking time out of his vacation to help us out with the class today. So thank you, Joel.
Well, since I lent you my Zoom home, and that you're
Okay, Jim, go ahead. Jim, go ahead.
So Charlie, in your vast experience, I've got my own ideas on this, but I want to hear from you. How many, in general, if you looked into your crystal ball of both past, current, and then thinking about people in the future, how many people do you think are truly interested in pursuing this deeper understanding as opposed to give me something that's a tip, a technique, a tool that I can use in the moment to accomplish my goal?
So once again, I don't rush to an answer on that. Huh? And the first thought that comes up, and by the way, my vast experience, I would just say my experience, but what immediately comes up for me, Jim, when I hear the question that you asked is it depends, is one answer. Number two is there's what some people want. Almost everybody in my mind wants a quick fix. And whether it's, I mean, all you have to do is spend a little time on YouTube, which is the world's most incredible rabbit hole. You can get on YouTube and be in Outer Mongolia in 5 minutes' time, never having even thought about Outer Mongolia before.
Mhm.
Everybody, not everybody, most people want the quick fix. Watch this 5 minute video and find out how to lose 40 pounds in the next 4 weeks, and so forth and so on and so forth and so on. So actually, Jim, as I heard your question, what I really heard, or if somebody would ask me, maybe Gilmore, because he's pretty clever, but everybody here is clever. If someone would ask me, Charlie, before you answer Jim's question, can you tell me your guess of what's the question that's behind Jim's question? You understand what I'm saying, Jim?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And now you seem your face and such have changed. You seem much more serious than you've been prior up to this point, and you conversing with me. So what was your question behind your question, or what was the statement behind your question?
Well, maybe it was looking to you to validate a belief that I have that many people are less interested in moving deeper and would like to stay where they are.
Good that you're able to say that. And since I'm a coach, and I hope you don't mind if I coach you a little bit, do you? I hope.
No,
Okay.
that's why I'm on these calls to learn.
Okay. You'll wind up making better relationships or having better results if you ask that more direct question rather than having it hidden behind something else that you're saying.
Okay.
You
Thank
see?
you.
Because one of the things that does for me, and I'm doing fine, by the way, I'm just trying to be helpful and everything, and I'm enjoying, interacting with you. One of the things when I heard your question, I had this, I mean, I don't know that I really had the internal dialogue or not because I've been doing this for so long, but there was a part of me that said, Charlie, be careful here. Don't answer the wrong question.
Hmm.
And so if you want to be the most popular in the world and maybe make the most money, I would suggest doing something that involves scantily clad, very good looking woman and the general topic of sex. That seems to me to be like the best way to make money. Or at least, why am I seeing it all over the place if it isn't? You know? So the thing is, as a coach, as a consultant like Beverly, or Gilmore's I shouldn't say successful coach at this point in time. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit starting out, but
I'm not really a coach, Charlie.
not consultant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I like, Beverly or Gilmore. Um, and and you're not really a coach because you're more esteemed than that?
Well, I don't want to work with people unless I can work with them and the people that report to them and see the interactions. So I'm more bigoted than
Yeah,
that.
so you see, he would be normally hesitant to admit this, but he's an elitist.
Yes. I
So,
want group dynamics.
yeah, so Gilmore wants to find out maybe even how much money you're making and who you're in charge of before he decides whether he wants to work with you or not.
I don't care about how much money you're making.
Okay, so
Well, they got to pay the bills, so you know,
Well,
someone
I
has
want
to
to get
pay the
paid,
bill.
but that I
Oh,
don't need to
okay.
know how much money you're
Oh, the
making.
company pays the bill. Okay, so yeah.
so
Somebody, yeah. Keep going.
yeah, so Jim, one of the things for me, like sometimes when I get a really challenging client, and that's challenging to me, not because there's something in particular wrong with them or anything. I'll tell you something I've said to certain challenging clients more than once. They go, blah, 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 whatever, and let's make believe it's you that's done that. And I say, Jim, before we go any further, one thing I want to make clear, because I don't want to be leading you on in a false way, is frankly, having heard what you've had to say so far, I'm not at all sure that I'm going to be able to help you. Now, the interesting part of the conversation starts to happen. Jim comes back to me and says whatever he's going to say. Could be, okay, thank you very much, and he hangs up the phone. And I wouldn't feel like a missed opportunity there. Or he goes another level deeper into his story to where I hear something that I feel like I could help with.
Mhm.
You see? So, so the thing is, something I've said many times to many clients, or even, I don't know, could be out having a beer somewhere, is I say it like this, knowing it's not 100% accurate the way I say it. Nothing really worth doing is easy. And I'll just say to you, Mr. Doyle, that if you're looking for an easy answer to your question or to your conundrum, chances are I won't be the best one for you to work with. Huh? So, for instance, I think I said this maybe at the start today. I ask people, I make it necessary for them to sign up for 12 sessions. And if we totally fix their situation in less than that, I'll give them their money back. And the unused money, the portion. And if they're dissatisfied, I would also give them the money back. But I want them to sign up for at least 12 sessions to make sure they're really serious about wanting to do something. And many times I've had people say to me, well, 12 sessions, Joe Blow, the famous coach,
Yeah.
says He normally just works on with 1 or 2 sessions for people. And of course, he charges a lot more than you for those 1 or 2 sessions because he's so brilliant. And then what I've said more than once is my suggestion is please go and work with Joe Blow. God bless you. You get the results that you're after. That's fantastic. If you haven't gotten those results, give me another call back. Because in my model of the world, you can't do that in 1 or 2 sessions. Now, when I say in my model of the world, I love to say all things being equal, which they never are. But anyway, if someone comes to me and says, I have a really horrible relationship with my wife, and I want you to help me with that. And I go, yeah, we can do that in 2 sessions, no problem. I would think someone would go, what is this guy? What kind of clown is this guy? So I don't know, and I think a lot of coaches say this and consultants, and we'll see what Gilmore has to say about this, or even Beverly.
Even Beverly?
Yeah, I good. I was gonna add to that, but I thought it was better to let you do it. So thank you for that. I don't know that I've ever had anybody accurately describe to me why they're wanting to have a session with me starting out, or why. I've also done consulting, but I'm the first one to claim I never did any really important projects consulting, so I never call myself a consultant. But I could be if you got enough money. Nobody has ever accurately told me why it is they're looking for my help. And by the time they're able to tell me why it is they're looking for my help accurately, they no longer need my help. So I'm guessing that even Beverly is agreeing with that, because she was shaking her head a little bit, yes, up and down. Okay? So we've really been, this is the widest scope any of these classes have had yet, which is also cool. And I'm going to ask Jim, even Beverly, and Gilmore to make one succinct statement each, just talking about yourself, as to what it is you would, not necessarily from me, but what is it that you'd love to have some help with in your life? Okay, so not necessarily with Charlie. Maybe you'd like someone a little wiser than me, or a little, most likely not older than me, because I'm 76, so you're not going to find many people doing anything that are older than me. Maybe someone gentler than me, maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of maybes. So,
I'd like to always be patient.
excuse me?
I'd like to always be patient.
Well, why the hell didn't you wait a little while to say that? Because I was just still kind of in the process of talking, Gilmore.
And if the car's racing at you, is patient where do you really want to be?
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
thinking more about relationships.
Okay.
Yeah. And Beverly as well, and Jim Doyle. Something you'd like help with. Not necessarily from me.
I'm just thinking for a second here.
Me too.
Okay, good. We like that.
I'd
I
like,
go ahead, Beverly.
no, you
Go ahead.
first, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was thinking about what I can learn from you, Charlie.
Oh
Uh,
my God. That's, go ahead.
we're here in a semi-structured environment, but it's you're a person that, although I've known for a long time, or known of for a long time, more accurately, um, I've been curious about, and am curious about what you bring, not just in your coaching, but your Aikido and all these other aspects of your life to this group.
Okay, so this is your fifth class, I believe. Yes?
No, fourth. I
Fourth.
missed one.
Okay. So what do you think you might learn from me?
Um, I think it's a more, I've done meditation, but I've not used things like meditation and uh, the being in the moment focus in my work life as much as I've used it in my personal life. And I'd like to see that brought more into interactions where they're not people that I'm necessarily friends with in the beginning, or that in fact I feel perhaps uncomfortable with. And if I,
Okay, so you're saying a lot, and which is fine, but I'm having trouble staying with you because I have to remember where you started, and it's kind of like it's kind of an interesting kind of hypnosis called that reminds me of a story. So let me just go like whoosh, whoosh, and shrink wrap what I heard you say in the beginning, but I could be off. Like to know how to be in the moment while having a meditative state while dealing with people. Is
good,
that it?
dealing with unknown people.
Unknown people. Good, good. See, then Beverly, that makes me a lot more able to perhaps share something or teach something to you. If there's a lot of story, it winds up being interesting, but there's going to be very few people that keep the kernel. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. Okay, good. Let's find out what our friend Jim has to say.
So, um, this is my first live session. I've watched all the other tapes, and
Okay.
it's it's inspiring to kind of watch your delivery, Charlie, and the talk tracks that you have developed over time. They just come out. Your ability to ad lib, all of that's good. So that's a compliment I wanted to share. I, I I'm 73, um, and still feeling like I have a lot to offer in life. But I've come to the realization, we talked about LinkedIn earlier, that um, there are a zillion people, maybe not a zillion, but close to that, coaches, consultants, therapists, we'll call them coaches on LinkedIn. Many of them are 30, 40 years younger than me.
Okay. Let me please gently ask you to pause.
Yep.
I do this with my hands because I live in Thailand, and I feel like this is and this is a learning for everyone. It was a little bit the same with Beverly and more so with you. God bless, it's all great. That's why we're here. Is I asked the question
Mm.
and you're maybe 1 minute into a description of something, and I'm not even sure where you're going yet.
Right.
Again, and I say this again, lovingly, respectfully, it makes me being the other person, that's all. I'm not talking about Charlie, really. It makes it necessary for me to have to work harder to suck out the question that I was looking for.
Okay. So succinctly, thank you for that gift. That's good, Charlie. It's just coming to grips with the acceptance of uh, how old I am. I'll leave
Acceptance
it
of
there.
what, please?
Well, at being 73 and still wanting to contribute.
Yes. So, Jim, so as I said, starting off, I was diagnosed with cancer 2.5 years ago. And then, as I also said at the beginning of the class, and I've said in other classes, I hope I don't say it too often, but the doctor said that stage 4 cancer to a doctor means that I'm meant to not live through the treatment protocol. And oh my God, did that wake me up, you know? And when I wake up, and this is really my Aikido background, when the doctor told me that, and that means you're most likely you're not meant to live through the treatment protocol, I had this immediate feeling like I was in a nationwide Aikido competition that I had been in any number of times when I was very actively doing Aikido, and with the hope also that I was going to win that competition. And meanwhile, there's 500 people out there on the other side of the screen, and I'm ready to go, you know? And actually, the first time I entered a competition, because in Aikido, we don't have kicking and punching. We don't look to hurt the other person. I got immediately disqualified because I had way too much adrenaline, and thank God I didn't hurt this guy, but I threw him really hard. And in fact, the other guy, 5 guys were attacking me, and the other 4 guys just completely backed off. And and um, and since they said tomate or tomate, anyway, stop. And I looked up a bit surprised, and he said dame desu, means like that was terrible. And I bowed, and I realized that I had been completely overwrought. Okay, so that ask your question again. Having just listened to what I just said, ask your question again.
Who?
Jim,
Oh,
that's interesting. Yeah, Jim.
I'm not sure what am I supposed to do?
What was the
Which
question
question?
you wanted to ask me?
No, I've already asked it.
Well, ask it again then, please.
Oh, um, I have a sense. I think
Okay, my friend, ask the question for your own. I'm saying this just for you to get the best results overall. Ask the question without the confusing lead into the question.
I got it. Okay. I'm interested in learning how to more effectively live the rest of my life from 73 going forward.
Okay, that was a statement. It wasn't a question.
How do I?
Good. You see?
Yeah. Hmm.
Whether it's me, the guy down the block, or whatever, Gilmore Crosby, when you make a clear proposal like that, it greatly enhances your chances of getting it dealt with in a way that can be constructive for you.
Mhm.
I would love some help in figuring out or understanding how it is that I can best live the rest of my life. Something like that, correct, Jim?
Mhm. Yep.
Now, if I was coaching you, we got a clear starting place. Most of the times, and this is I'm saying, I've never had a client that came to me. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, pretty much never had a client that came to me and was able to cogently say why it is they were coming to seek my help. It's just the way we are. If we knew why we were coming, maybe we wouldn't come, you know? So I'm looking for advice, information, whatever, wisdom in regard to how I can live the rest of my life. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. Even Beverly, what's your statement?
I want to see what you can and enlighten me in with your background.
Okay. You would like to be further enlightened, I think, um, by what it is that I know and perhaps be able to use it in your life, correct? Okay, Gilmore.
I'm here because I love you, Charlie. So
Yes,
maybe
I
that's not motivating me
appreciate
enough
that.
to, I know, but it might not be a good enough stimulant of my own learning.
Okay, so you're just here to hang out with Charlie.
Yeah, and see what comes from it.
Okay. And is this your second class or third class?
Second,
Okay.
my fourth attempt.
Okay. And have you learned anything so far out of these two classes?
Well, yeah, I liked where we got when you were coaching me. Well, it was a couple classes ago.
Okay. And what was it that you liked?
It just helped me get clearer about how much I love writing and what I've written, and I think expressing that when I'm talking to people about what I do.
Okay. Cool. Sorry to have to cough a lot.
It's all right.
Okay. So, like I say, this is the most far reaching class we've had so far, or the most here, there, and everywhere class that we've had so far. I'm concerned that some people will say, like, oh my God, what was the topic of that class even meant to be?
Uh-huh. Seems less structured. I'm fairly tolerant of less structure, but this does seem less structured.
Fairly tolerant, meaning, did I stretch your tolerance a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. Usually, I mean, the last class you were teaching something. You sort of like had an end target and a approach, and this seems more like I don't know, meandering.
Yes. And it was meandering. And thank you for being able to tell me that in a friendly way so that I can take it in. And prior to today's class starting, with all of the sorry, but I can't make it messages that I got, and Jim Doyle didn't happen to tell me he was coming today. So, anyway, I thought I was going to have two people on today's call, even Beverly and Gilmore. And so I was sitting there because I got up. The class started for me at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was up at 5. And I had this idea of what I was going to do with two people. And I was even going to say to Joel, okay, you can record this because who knows, maybe something good happens, but chances are I'm not going to put it on on YouTube because only showing two people, But now I'm happy to have it on YouTube. And so, yes, I taxed your ability to be okay with little structure because I wound up doing what I wasn't expecting,
Hmm.
um, which is a weakness of mine, but also a strength.
On the other hand, Charlie, if I can interrupt for a second, I've
Okay.
watched the other four sessions, and I have to confess at times the stuff was way over my head. I didn't understand. And so for me, getting today's session was pretty practical. I mean, I've learned a lot out of the other four sessions, don't get me wrong. Um, but I just wanted to acknowledge that too, that I'm looking for takeaways that I can use every day in working with people as well. And I've gotten a boatload out of them out of the first four sessions. So
Okay.
I didn't find this as meandering.
Okay. Thank you. So, I mean, as usual, most people don't agree with Gilmore, but okay. Uh,
Charlie, can I comment here for a second?
yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
and only let's keep in mind we're going over the limit, but go ahead.
okay, and it's also going to be responding to something Jim had asked earlier. So, in my model of the world, I mean, years ago, I ran across an internet article that said every living organism, single cell to us, has three primary motivations: towards good stuff, away from danger, death, bad stuff, and to do it as efficiently and easily as possible so they have energy for the next thing. Right?
Okay.
And I know that's a huge simplification, but when we say, oh, people are always looking for the quick fix, yes, our living organisms, that's what they're designed to do. You know, if you can get that slice of pizza at the corner and it takes you 2 seconds versus spending a lot more time making a nutritious meal, a lot of people are going to go for the quick fix, right? Because they're tired or they have so many other things to do. So we have to take that into account when saying, are we looking for easy answers? Yeah, a lot of times,
Which is why I started a McDonald's franchise many years ago.
right? Exactly. And which is why you've said more than once here, like if you really want to dive into it, you really want to go in depth, it takes time, right?
Yes.
You got to go deeper.
Yes. So, yes, thank you, Joe, for that. Thank you to Jim, Beverly, Gilmore. And I'm in the process of writing a book, and I'd like to I am thinking whether it's at all accurate or not. I'm thinking it's about two-thirds done. And I'm writing this book with my good friend Judith Delozier, who many of you will know. And if you don't know, please look up her name. She's been a leader in the field of NLP for like 40, 50 years. And it's about Seishindo and how the mindset and the philosophy I have in working with people. So that's a large part of what I'm looking to get across in these classes. And I would also ask any of you that genuinely like the class to tell some of your friends so that we could have 15 or 20 or 120 people attending these classes, which are free, because I think I have something important to share with the world. Let's see what happens. So, thank you for today.
Thank you.
And quite happy to talk to any of you in any other kind of opportunity or venue, email, phone calls, whatever. And, I was even thinking I was going to have a class in 2 weeks from now. Now I realize based on today that was ridiculous because that would be like the 23rd of December.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
So, Well, because 4 people didn't show up today already because
Yeah.
holiday pressure is what it was called. So,
Uh,
and then I've got, anyway, we're running late. So, I'm not sure when the next class will be, partially because I also have to go to Japan. And,
mm,
but I'm not at all giving up, and I'm very happy with today. And it was a large enough class to keep me busy and happy. And I want to eventually be on at the beach like Joel's and just enjoying myself. So we'll talk in a few weeks' time, my friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank
Okay,
you.
Bye.
Yeah.
bye-bye.